So hi everyone, welcome back to episode 3 of the Jade plantings and the Succulent plantings. We need to get these succulents out of this pot that they're sharing with the pencil cactus that we got from Jared at Jarhead Bonsai. This pencil cactus has done really well and could do with a repot, but we certainly need to retrieve these cuttings, which they basically were, out of this pot. They were literally, you know, no more than an inch long when they went in with the pencil cactus. But let's just try and pull this out of the pot. Oh, it's absolutely rammed tight in there. So let me see if I can find a tool to help get us out. Oh, there we go. So we're out, and if we just tease, you see there we got some nice roots at the bottom of that. It looks like it's actually one cutting that's created all of that. We've got some bits that are falling away from the planting there, so we'll just ease it off and get it away from the pencil cactus as best we can. The pencil cactus has done really well in that pot. It's only been able to grow outwards, so it's done superbly well. We just need to get this. You can see a nice woody trunk appearing at the bottom of this pencil cactus, and it's got a large node there where it's swollen in, and we'll just, that's it. So that's our tree secured, and I will just add a bit of our bonsai soil to the pencil cactus. And we'll put that to one side. So we've got a multi-trunk system here coming from the bottom. So we've got a twin trunk, a triple trunk, and some low branches. So if we just come in and take out the low branches, or save the cuttings, because you never know, we might do something with them. And then the third one went with it, so that's fine. So we've got this twin trunk which we can keep. It comes up and it divides quite early into two there, so we'll make a decision to take one away, trim that one back. We'll do this quite quickly, and we're just going to trim all this top material off. There's another one there, chop that back, otherwise it's going to be very heavy in the planting, and we'll just trim the tops of all of that away, and then this one back to here, and that gives us, we've still got some work to do going in there. We've got these larger leaves to take away, so we'll take the lower larger leaves off. You can achieve that by pulling or twisting, and they come away quite well. And this will leave us with a nice little tree to work with and make some more decisions. So we'll put that just to one side with the others, and we'll collect our cuttings off of that. That's a lot of growth it did, sat in that sat in with that pencil cactus. But a lot of these cuttings, they've gone all nice, you know, all really leggy. So we'll probably be able to get some cuttings from those should we wish. We'll just put these to one side. We've got the old cuttings up here which we can just place them in there. We'll mist them and they will survive quite a while before dying off. We'll not worry about keeping the leaves or anything like that, and we'll dispose of what's left in that tray and get tidied up a little bit. So now that we've got down to the basis of the trees that we're using, we've trimmed that one all the way back. These will get a little bit of a trim. The Echeverias will stay the same sort of size. That's the Mexican firecracker, that one, and I can't remember what they call that one, but we will try and find out. This is the Tetra, Tetra that was sent by Ashley Bonner, and he also sent these variegated Jades as well, so we'll look at getting all them set into this tray. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll get a layer of soil into our tray. No need for any drainage screen in these pots because they come prefabricated into the pot. So that's a good base layer into our pot. It's now a decision as to how we want to lay this out. Now my thoughts are, we have the jade pines, the tetras, over to one side. We'll cut them down and place the cuttings in so we have a cluster of the jade pines here. We'll plant the golem to this side. We'll cut that down and maybe put the cuttings into the planting also. Then the Echeverias can come in at the front, and then the variegated jade can sit in between the taller trees with the other jade maybe just sat right behind it, just there. So just looking at this, we do need to take more of these big leaves off. It will do okay without them. It would recover a lot quicker with them because it holds a lot of moisture in the leaves. It's got an interesting bit of bulbous root coming out the front there, and it has got a bit of a twist onto that, so there is a natural kink to this, but we're probably going to place that under the soil as we go forward. So this, once we've taken enough of these big leaves off, is going to sit towards the back of the planting, somewhere around there. I'm only loosely placing it in at the moment because we may do some slight rearranging. So the tetras, the pines, can come out of these glass bottles that we placed them in. They've grown really well. They were really just a stick as they went in, but we're going to cut them all the way back and see what we get out of that. So let's see if we can't agitate the soil to release the root that's in there, and we'll be able to get the tetras out without damaging the soil too much. Sorry, damaging the roots too much. Damaging the soil. So we'll just break that up in the base, and there you go, it comes out with all that nice root in there. So we initially had all that planted in. We'll probably be able to still get that into the planting, and we do have an aerial root that's come down and grown in, so we'll probably just take the very bottom of that away just so that we can plant it ever so slightly deeper. And then our choices are, we come up, we split into two very early at the bottom, so that could be taken off and become a cutting, and then we split into two, and then immediately two again. So the breaks are very quick in succession, so we can either take them right back really small and make it a very small tree, or we can take these lower branches off. So what I will do, I think, having a quick think about it, we'll cut this right down so that we've literally got the trunks, the branches heading up to about that high, and then all these will be able to go in and around as cuttings around. So we'll just make those decisions now. So we'll take that one to there, slightly higher with the next one, just slightly lower with the one after, and then just above the node on the one after. So that leaves that without any green on at all, apart from this. I don't know whether you can see this small growth coming out. So that's going to sit to that side of the planting. We'll just get a scoop of soil around that, and we should see all manner of nice growth come off that. We'll lift it ever so slightly, and that will continue to do okay. And if we just look at our cuttings here, we've got a nice little beginnings of a cutting tree there. So we'll just pull the leaves off at the very bottom, pull the leaf off at that joint so it goes up, splits into two, and we'll just leave the top sets of leaves on each one, and we'll be able to place that into our planting also. We've got another one just to trim back, and we can take that back to a few leaves and try and just place that into our planting as well. Not too much arrangement just yet, but they will come a lot better as we get further in. We'll just pull the bottom few leaves off of that cutting, and we'll just take the top off, and then this one will go somewhere around there. And I think what we might do is we might save this larger one to do as a standalone, because we're getting a lot of cuttings off of these, and then we can have cuttings off the cuttings also, so they will continue to grow and do good. So we'll literally just keep pulling the leaves away and placing them to this side of the planting, and we can adjust them up and down as we go. Again, pull the bottom sets of leaves off, trim it back, and then put it in. Not the perfect arrangement as yet, but it's in to a point. Well, these cuttings that we've got here, because we've got so many there and they will fill out in that area, we'll just put these to one side. I will just give all these a misting. Just to keep them nice and damp so that they can keep growing. So we'll leave the other pine, jade pine, because it might be interesting to see if we can make a proper bonsai tree out of that one. We'll just come across to the Gollum jade that Kay got me some time ago, and we can see it's got a nice beefy trunk down the bottom, and that comes up, splits into two straight away, and then disappears up here, and then we've got more things going on up the top. So we'll just trim that one back to there, work that off. That has, it has got a bit of an aerial root on that as well, so we'll be able to plant that into the planting. And then there's lots of little leaves that go off into different areas. We can take these bottom ones off so that we can see the trunk. So we'll just tidy those away. We'll take that one off that's right at the very bottom, and then these ones that are going to be far too low, there's lots of them. Take that one away, that one away, that one away. Most of these that are right down the very bottom we'll be getting rid of. So that then exposes that we have a trunk going up there and a trunk going up there. I think what we'll do is we'll plant it with this side of the trunk towards us, so that we can allow the rest of this to develop and see what we get. So we'll just work the roots out a little bit. They are very compact in there. They've been in that little pot for quite a while. But jades being jades, they'll do just fine. We'll lose some of this root, but then we'll get plenty of root back over a very quick period of time. So that's come away quite nicely. Not too much effort in the raking and combing out of the roots there. So that's done quite well. You can hear some of the roots ripping as we're working on it, but it's not too bad at all. You can see there it was probably a cutting to that point, and then it's grown out of there. I'll get as much of this soil away as we can, and then we'll be able to plant it to our new height, which will be slightly higher out of the soil than it currently was. And there are some interesting bits of roots happening at that level, so that's all good. So we'll keep a bit of the soil on, it's not going to hurt anything in our soil there, and we'll just plant it to a level. So if I just come down and see what we're working with, get a scoop of soil, and we can just tease the base and the roots into the soil. Just let the soil drop underneath our root mass rather than into it, and then that gives us a good standing point for where it's going to pot up. That doesn't look like it's going to be too bad at all. So we've got the variation of the jades, and then this one we will pull these bottom leaves off, and we are going to just place that into the soil so it can continue to grow. It'll look a bit like a bush at the moment, but it will grow and it'll get bigger and bigger over time, so that'll be nice. I think the variegated jades would look better into this sort of section, which will mean bringing this one more across and forward, so we'll just do that. So that's what we're working with, a space there, and then that gives the space for the echeverias to sit in this sort of area, and then hopefully we'll get some moss and things growing, and we'll get a base layer of stone. I don't know what we're going to use yet, but we'll choose a stone to put in. So let's take out the variegated jades from this planting. This was the pate meat dish that we rehashed to be a pot, and as you can see, this has put down a lot of nice roots there. It's done really well. So we'll just pull some of the bottom leaves away and create a bit of space in our planting for that one to sit. We won't put it in too much yet because we'll get this other one. And I think we're going to have to cut off these lower branches, unfortunately. Let me see if I can pick them away and save them somehow. We'll take that leaf off. That leaf has actually taken that nice little bit of growth with it. We'll definitely try to save that because that's a nice little bit of growth. We'll just pop that into a spare pot for the moment. So then we've got the base of the cutting there, and then we just need to get that slightly trimmed back. So that we can get our little variegated jade into position somewhere in there. So I think we're going to have to, because it's very top heavy, we're going to have to take this back considerably and allow it to grow in. And that will grow up from there. And then this one, we'll take the top off and that will be able to grow in from there also. So we've got to work with all of these and get them into a position, and then we'll come back and do the echeverias at the end. So we'll be able to reuse the pate dish for some of these cuttings and things. So, you know, we will save and use a lot of those cuttings, but hopefully not to be inundated with too many like we always do. We'll just put the single pine, jade pine, out of the way. So we just need to come into the planting and then have a look using the soil that we've got. Just raise these up so that they can sit quite nicely when the rest of the soil is added, because the amount of soil that's around them at the moment is lower than the lip of the pot, so they wouldn't stick out at all from the in the planting. They'd look like they'd been buried. So we'll just work with that ever so slightly. Yeah, pick them out, push the soil up and around them, and then that is our pine part of the planting. The variegateds, we'll just work a bit of soil around them and they should stand quite well. I'm going to just fill in this space that I've borrowed all the soil from. So we've got the variegated in position there, and then this other variegated one just needs to come across and up ever so slightly. When we water these, it'll all settle back down as well, so that'll be okay. Our succulent here that we drastically cut down at the beginning, I'm quite happy with where that is, so I'm literally just going to lift that ever so slightly and push the level of the soil around the tree just to get it planted in, and I'm quite happy with that at that position. We'll allow the joint of the trunk to sit just in the soil level, and we'll just pat that in and down. I'm happy with the original Golem Jade, but this one just needs to come out whilst we raise the soil level, and then that can sit back in. And then we just need to add the soil for the front just to achieve a decent soil level. And we'll just tamp that in nicely, as good as we can. And then we just need to position our Mexican firecracker and our other Echevera into these spaces here. Just get the rake, just tamp down around the back to get the level.
I'm still not sure about that.
So we've got our two Echeverias here in the pots that Tom sent, our Jade rescue pots as we use them for. And we're going to finally add a little bit of colour to this now with this purpley coloured Echeveria, which will just tease out of the pot. The root is well in there in the base. Yeah, it's got some lovely roots there. It's done really well in that bit of soil that we placed it in. Lots of roots all over. So we're just going to create a little space for it to go into, just about there, and that's going to be our position for that Echeveria. And then our Mexican firecracker, and just work the soil out a little bit. It's a nice little succulent. This it's grown into a bit of a twin trunk, so you've got the two, I was going to call them kits, but they're not really kits, but they've got the two outputs, and these lovely furry roots have come out lovely from there. So we'll just create a bit of a space there and place our trunks of that into the soil. We will be able to raise it up and out of the soil going forward, but that will, you know, these have got a lot of growing to do now. We've took a lot off of some of them that need to grow back, get re-established into this new soil. We just need to get some nice top dressing just to make it look nice. The bonsai soil isn't too bad, but when you top dress these, they look a lot nicer, they look a lot better. So I think I've just seen another bit of a jade that we can pinch. We'll cut that there, and that gives us an extra Echeveria type of succulent. That it's in that big tray there, but that's going to need some serious repotting, so we'll get this put in. It looks nice, looks really well. We'll trim all these bottom bits off and then get this bit of trunk that we've created into the soil, and that'll be a nice little base for the, and we'll literally place that into the front looking out at us, and I think that is quite good, not too bad at all. What I have found is the plainer the stone, the better these things can look, and I've got some nice horticultural alpine white. So if we just cut into this bag, cut it open, I'll just drop the bag into the soil. This is the same alpine white that was used for the winter wonderlands that we put together, but these stones are various sizes, and if we start from the back, we can tease it in and around the trees that we've planted. We may have to lift our trees up every now and again just to achieve the look of these stones, but I think you can see almost straight away there's a definite difference having these rather than the soil as the top dressing. And as long as you don't make it too thick so that, you know, things are still in the soil, I don't think you can go too wrong with it all. It doesn't matter if it's not all white and you've got some coloration of the soil in amongst the roots, etc. But the plainer these are, I find that sometimes the nicer that they can appear. It takes all your concentration away from the soil and the difference of coloration of the soil and puts it all onto each individual succulent or each individual jade cutting, and they stand out a lot more as well. You know, you can see them clearer, they look and seem a lot better, and we just get the covering underneath the leaves of the cuttings and plants that we've put in, and they will grow up and through these as well. So as well as, you know, you might cover some of these bits up in different areas, as they grow they'll push their way out of the top layer. So the Echeveria there that was just a little bit covered up, we have lifted it just out of the soil, but we probably could have got away with letting it sit in there a little bit, and you know, it would grow in the stones as well. These plants and trees grow in gravelly mix and they look quite well. So we've got just a little bit to put in the pine part of the forest. And if we just move in with our rake and just get the particles in and around, you can even use the back end of the rake just to help push it through the roots, the trunks. Again, they will grow and push through the top part of the covering, so it's not too bad if it is a little bit too covered. But you can see now that you can see all the individual trees, you can see the Echeverias, you can see everything really nicely. And if we just give it a water over, the white stones become a lot whiter, a lot clearer. All the dust runs off them that was lying on them from in the bag. and it's a lovely little planting. The beginning of a succulent forest with a long way to go, a lot of growing to do. The pines will want to get back up to about this height with a bit more ramification in them. The golems will want cutting back at some stage and tidying up, but we'll allow them to get established and grow and cut them back and grow and cut them back. And then the other crassula types, the variegated crassula and this crassula, you know, it'll grow, we'll trim it back, grow and trim it back. So that's going to do it for part 3 of this series. I think we'll come back with part 4 and see if we can't do something with the single pine, and maybe a couple of other little bits of jades that I've got knocking around. But you know, some of this does look a little bit sparse in places, but these will spread out and fill out. I've done one before similar to this planting here, where there was literally 4 or 5 small plants in there, and they just spread out and grow bigger, and they do really well. That was just chucked in as a leaf that fell off of another plant. In fact, I think, no, we'll leave it. I was going to try and put it in the planting, but we'll leave it. So yeah, like I said, that's going to do it for part 3. We'll come back with part 4 just to tidy up the cuttings. We might do a bit of a training pot with the cuttings, get a sorting out and get them into a training box and see where we go. See you in part 4.